Buy Sri Lanka's best internet package for online learning and online working with many amazing offers. Call 1212 for more information. Sri Lanka Telecom.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, dire consequences. Former Deputy Minister Premalal Jayasekara sentenced to death. Past catching up. Interdicted CID Director SHANI ABEYSEKARA arrested. Post-election plans. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna calls for immediate reforms.
The citizen of another country cannot contest elections here. A citizen of a foreign country can sit on the Elections Commission as a member. Isn't there an obvious contradiction?
Deepening crisis. More UNP local authority members suspended. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Friday the 31st of July 2020.
Nava sunlight sakura. Then Dikukal Pavatina Sakura Mal Suandin.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Mohammed Kekanayaka. Let's start with your local stories. Former Deputy Minister Premalal Jayasekara and two others were handed the death sentence by Ratnapura High Court Judge Rohan Jayawardena today. The High Court verdict was delivered when the case pertaining to the murder of Shanta Dodangoda during the 2015 presidential election was taken up. The other two accused are former Sabaragamuwa Provincial Councillor Nilantha Jayakodi and former chairman of Kahawatha Pradesha Sabha Wajira Darshana.
The case pertaining to the murder of an individual named Shanta Dodangoda during the 2015 presidential election in Kahawatha, Ratnapura was taken up before the Ratnapura High Court today. Present in court today was the main accused, former Deputy Minister Premalal Jayasekara, who is contesting the general election from the Ratnapura district under the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna banner. With the verdict set to be delivered today, large crowds were seen present at the court complex. Announcing the verdict, Ratnapura High Court Judge Rohan Jayawardena pronounced the death sentence for the first, second and third accused, Premalal Jayasekara, former Sabaragamuwa Provincial Councillor Nilantha Jayakodi and former chairman of the Kahawatha Pradesha Sabha Wajira Darshana. On the day of the incident, the victim Shanta Dodangoda and a group of others were engaged in decorating the location of a public rally to be held on January 5, 2015 in Kahawatha in support of common presidential candidate Maithripala Sirisena. At that time, the three main accused Premalal Jayasekara, Nilantha Jayakodi and Wajira Darshana had arrived at the location in the company of a group of supporters and opened fire on them. The aftermath of the shooting left Shanta Dodangoda dead and several others injured, while former Deputy Minister Premalal Jayasekara was arrested 5 days later in Alutgama. Following his arrest, along with several others, Jayasekara spent 11 months behind bars before being granted bail.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
Now, the Colombo Crimes Division arrested former director of the Criminal Investigation Department, interdicted SSP SHANI ABEYSEKARA on charges of fabricating evidence in a murder case involving former DIG Vas Gunawardena. The charges relate to a cache of weapons found hidden in a residence in the Gampha district, allegedly belonging to DIG Vas Gunawardena. However, witnesses, including two police personnel and the householders, later recanted their previous testimonies, which they claimed were given under pressure from the CID. The court was also told by the Gampha householders that the cache of weapons were in fact placed at the location by none other than the former CID director personally before their purported discovery.
Back in 2013, as former Deputy Inspector General of Police Vas Gunawardena and his son were in remand, facing charges relating to the murder of multimillionaire businessman Mohammad Shyam, another investigation was launched into a cache of weapons discovered by the Criminal Investigation Department, allegedly belonging to the DIG. In connection with this investigation, the CID took into custody a police inspector named Villavarachi and proceeded to interrogate him regarding the source of the weapons. Following this, the CID told court that based on the interrogation of Inspector Villavarachi, The weapons, consisting of 6 T-56 assault rifles, 1 pistol, 1 revolver, 1 shotgun, 2 mortar rounds and ammunition, belonged to DIG Vasco Navardhana and were handed over to a Kadawatha resident named Naligama on the orders of the DIG. Further, the CID had revealed that based on the interrogation of Naligama, who was at the time quite suspiciously not placed under arrest by CID investigators, a search operation at a residence in KALAGEDIHENA had uncovered the stock of weapons hidden in a shed at the location. The stock of weapons had then been produced in court by the CID as the property of DIG Vasco Navardhana. However, the DIG's legal counsel denied the CID's claims and accused the department of submitting false evidence. Accordingly, the Colombo Magistrates Court then ordered the CID to arrest Police Sergeant Dias and Police Constable Susanta, who gave evidence in court on the weapons cache discovery, as well as the owner of the KALAGEDIHENA residence along with his spouse, and for them to be produced in court. However, in order to prevent the arrest, the CID then moved the Attorney General's department to file a revision petition in the High Court, but the petition was subsequently rejected. In June this year, when the 2 police personnel and the KALAGEDIHENA duo were placed under arrest and produced in court, their statements told a completely different story. The court was told by them that they had been forced by the CID into giving false testimony incriminating DIG Vasco Navardhana. Further, the court was also told that the weapons were in fact brought to the KALAGEDIHENA location and placed in the garden shed by none other than CID Director SHANI ABEYSEKARA himself. Following these revelations, the Colombo Crimes Division launched an investigation, culminating in the arrest of interdicted SSP SHANI ABEYSEKARA at his residence in Mata Road, Narahenpeta this morning. The former CID director was then taken to the Colombo Crimes Division, where he was questioned till late this afternoon.
Now, 58 persons were given the green light to leave hospital today as they were given the all clear from COVID-19. The latest recoveries mean that there are only 412 active coronavirus cases in Sri Lanka. There was another positive development as all restrictions which were in place in the area of Rajangana in Anuradhapura was lifted.
The area of Rajangana of Anuradhapura was isolated after it came to light on the 12th that some residents from the area are among the COVID-19 infections confirmed from the Kandakadu Rehabilitation Centre. But the restrictions were completely lifted today as the situation has turned for better. Although that's the case, the Divisional Secretary of Rajangana said that 6 families in the locality are in self-quarantine. In the meantime, with an office assistant at the Lankapura Divisional Secretariat in Polonnaruwa testing positive for COVID-19 recently, 200 of his associates were subjected to PCR tests last night. They are employees of the Lankapura Divisional Secretariat and the Lankapura Pradeshya Sabha. As things stand, a total of 2,814 COVID-19 infections have been confirmed from within Sri Lanka. However, with 58 COVID-19 infected persons being given the all clear to leave hospitals today after making a full recovery from the virus, there are only 412 active cases of coronavirus in the island at present. 2,391 coronavirus infected persons, meanwhile, have so far successfully recovered from the virus to date.
Now, the United National Party has decided to further suspend the memberships of 37 of its local authorities members. The move comes at the heels of 115 party members, including 54 who are contesting the polls from the Samagi Jana Balawega, having their membership revoked by the UNP Working Committee.
The Working Committee of the United National Party recently cancelled the membership of 54 party members who submitted nominations for the upcoming general election from the newly formed Samagi Jana Balawega. What's more, 61 party members of local authorities also saw their UNP membership being revoked. After cancelling the membership of 115 persons in total, the UNP has further decided to suspend the memberships of a further 37 of the party's local authority members. UNP's Legal Secretary, Attorney at Law Nisanka Nanayakara said that the decision was made over supporting other political parties and promoting them. Meanwhile, former parliamentarian Ranjan Ramanayaka has filed a case before the Colombo District Court challenging the United National Party's decision to revoke his party membership. Leader of the party Ranil Wickramasinghe, Deputy Leader Ravi Karunanayaka and the UNP's General Secretary Akila Viraj Karyavasam are cited as respondents of the case.
We will see you shortly after this break. Stay tuned.
Enjoy a very smooth shave with the Bic Easy 2 razor. Bic Easy 2.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa took part in a series of political propaganda events today, during which members of the public aired their grievances to the head of state. Let's see what the president had to say to the people.
Several political events were worked off in the Monoragala district today in support of candidates contesting the polls from the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa endorsed these candidates starting from Jagat Pushpakumara at the Thanamal Villa Public Stadium. Meanwhile, the president also visited the Thanamal Villa National School and spoke with the students and the principal about their issues. The head of state then also attended the rally organised by candidate Gayashan Navananda near the Bodhirukka Rama temple in Ethilivawa. Another rally was organised at the weekly fair premises in Vellavaya. Later, President Gotabaya took part in a public gathering organised by SLPP candidate Kumarasiri Ratnayaka at the Domagahavela weekly fair premises.
Chairman of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Professor G.L. Piris, is of the view that the 19th Amendment to the Constitution must undergo change, pointing out to the contradiction disallowing dual citizenship bearers from contesting elections, but allowing them to sit on commissions that govern elections. Elaborating on the country's foreign policy, speaking to Indiya Riyamwathu on our current affairs program at Hyde Park on AdaDerana 24, Professor Piris said that economic diplomacy must supersede political diplomacy while also ensuring an investor-conducive environment.
You're asking a mandate to set up a single-party government, asking for a strong majority. How do you think the composition of parliament will be here?
When you say a single-party government, we are not in any way denigrating the role of the opposition. There must be a strong opposition in the interest of democracy. Unfortunately, I don't think there will be in the new parliament because of all the dissension and the conflicts within the main segments of the opposition. But what we will offer the country is not an arrogant government, but a government that will be sensitive to public opinion in all sectors. Now, in order fully to achieve that, I think that some constitutional reforms are urgently necessary. Now, one of those tasks would be electoral reform. You know, the present system really brings out the worst in human nature. Colleagues within the same party, within the same government are ferociously competing with one another for preference votes. Other changes which are equally necessary, now we are talking of independent commissions, the 17th Amendment and the 19th Amendment. Are these commissions really independent? Does anybody believe that they are independent? You have a member of the Constitutional Council exhorting the public not to give a 2/3 majority to a particular political formation. You have a member of the National Elections Commission telling people not to vote for a particular political party, quite publicly in an interview on television like this interview. They are politicized beyond belief. So isn't it time to take a fresh look at these? These are some of the things that we have to do very early in the piece after the formation of the new government.
What's the stance of the SLPP on the question of the 19th Amendment?
With regard to the 19th Amendment, there are things that everybody would agree have to be changed. According to the 19th Amendment, the citizen of another country, even if he happens to be a citizen of Sri Lanka also, cannot contest elections here, out of the question. But the body holding elections for the whole country is the National Elections Commission. So a citizen of a foreign country can sit on the Elections Commission as a member. Isn't there an obvious contradiction? The 19th Amendment says that the Elections Commission shall consist of a chairman and 2 other people. What do you think the quorum is? Quorum is 3. Membership is 3, quorum is 3. I have not come across such a legislative provision anywhere in the world. What happens if one member decides to boycott the commission? The commission can't function at all. The entire electoral process comes to a grinding halt. It falls to the ground.
You were a strong proponent of economic diplomacy during your tenure as foreign minister. Is that still what you believe Sri Lanka should follow?
I think that should be the principal task of our missions abroad, not political diplomacy. We are not a major political power on the world stage. We must make it clear to our missions abroad that they must focus on investment into this country, trade. They should be assessed from time to time how effective they have been. So, of course, we must first create in this country an environment that is conducive to investment. During the Yapalana period, there was no question of inspiring confidence in anybody. But once we set up a strong government, and we must identify the areas in which we would welcome investment. So we have to prioritize, and we have to insist on our foreign missions working very actively to achieve those objectives.
But the common criticism by the opposition against your camp is that you failed to strike a balance between the superpowers in terms of foreign policy, that the West, China, India. So how are we looking at managing these superpowers?
Sri Lanka's foreign policy does not depend on an exclusive relationship with any one country. Countries will have differences among themselves, but we don't get involved in those. This point was made very clearly by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. He said, we will not allow Sri Lanka to be used for the benefit of one country at the expense of another country. They are all our friends. Reciprocally, we expect those countries to respect our independence, our sovereignty, our autonomy of action. That is the cornerstone, the foundation of Sri Lanka's foreign policy. We are prepared to articulate and defend our position in any forum, provided that we are given a fair hearing. The criteria must be objective. Now, this has been a criticism of the actions of some international organizations, that they have already made up their minds and they adopt a stance, a posture in regard to Sri Lanka which has very little to do with Sri Lanka's welfare, but is tailor-made to cater for vested interests in their own countries. We welcome criticism, but there must be the conviction on the part of the people of Sri Lanka that these are well-meaning criticism, not the promotion of interests of other countries. That will be lacking in credibility and will not achieve the kind of resonance that is required for criticisms to be taken seriously and acted upon.
Now, taking a look at the campaign trail, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa gave an indication as to what the future may hold for Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna candidate Dilum Amunugama, saying he has progressed beyond regional politics. Addressing an election propaganda event in Kandy, the PM lauded the Kandy district candidate for being one of the pioneers in his political revival.
Kandy district candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Dilum Amunugama organised a public gathering at the Hindu Cultural Hall in Kandy yesterday, which was worked off with the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa.
කවුරුවක්වත් පොහොට්ටුව ගැන අදහසක් නොමැති කාලේ අපි පොහොට්ටු ලක්ෂයක පූජාවක් පැවැත්වුවා දළදා මාලිගාවේ. ඒක තමයි අපේ අගමැතිතුමා සහභාගී වෙච්ච පළවෙනි උත්සවය. එතුමා පරාජය වුණාට පස්සේ අපි නෙළුම් පොහොට්ටු ලක්ෂයක් දළදා හාමුදුරුවන්ට පූජා කරනකොට අගමැතිතුමනි සමහරක් අය බැන ගියා. මුන්ට තියෙන හදිසියට මුන් මල් ටික පුප්පලත් නැහැ නැට්ට කඩලත් නැහැ කියලා. ඒසයි පොහොට්ටුව අති උතුම් වූ දළදා හාමුදුරුවන්ට පූජා කරලා ආරම්භ කරපු ඒ සටනක් කවදාක්වත්ම පරදින්නේ නැහැ. දිනුම් තමයි මහින්ද සුළඟේ මහනුවර රැස්වීමේ වේදිකාවට මුලින්ම කොට වැදුනේ කියන එක මතක් කරගන්න. අද දිනුම් මහනුවරට හෝ ඔබේ ආසනයට සීමා වෙලා නැහැ. අද ඔහු එතනින් එහාට ගිහිල්ලා රටත් එක්ක වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන් ඇමතිවරයෙක් වගකීමක් ගන්න පුළුවන් කෙනෙක් බවට පත් වෙලා තියෙනවා.
Leader of the United National Party Ranil Wickremesinghe tells people on the campaign trail that only a UNP government can ensure economic prosperity. Addressing a gathering, the former Prime Minister said that people can once more have the satisfaction of having 3 meals a day once his party comes to power. The UNP leader also touched on the split within the party, which resulted in the birth of SAMAGI-JANA BALAWEGA, saying that the right course of action for those who broke away is expulsion, irrespective of identities.
The Barnes Place in Colombo hosted another election propaganda event of the United National Party under the auspices of leader Ranil Wickremesinghe last evening.
එකක් ප්‍රමාද වී පැමිණියේ මම හිතුවා දැන් කොහොමද ටිකක් ප්‍රමාද වුණාට කමන්නේ එක වේලයිනේ කන්නේ. ඉතින් රෑ කන්න නැති නිසා මෙතන තියාගෙන අපි දැන් කතා කරමු කියලා. අපව තුන් වේලක් කන්න පුළුවන් එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ පාලනයේ කාලේ විතරයි කියලා මතක තියාගන්න. බත් කන්න ඕනෙන් බත් කන්න, පාන් කන්න ඕනෙන් පාන් කන්න. මට හිටපු ජනාධිපතිතුමා මතක් වුණා ආප්ප කන්න ඕනෙන් ආප්ප කන්න. සමහරට උවමනා වුණා අපේ නමෙන් නැතුව එන්න. ඒත් අපේ සමහරු කඩාගෙන ගිහින් පක්ෂයක් අලුත් පක්ෂයක් ඇති කරගත්තා. දැන්ට 100ක් විතර ඉවත් කරලා තියෙනවා. තවත් ඒවා ඉතින් එහෙම වාර්තා එන අනුව අපි ක්‍රියා කරන්න. මම ගියොත් එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂේ මාව අයින් කළා. මං හදන්නේ වෙනම පක්ෂයක් හදන්න ගියොත්. එච්චරයි කියන්නේ අපි මේ පක්ෂේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ, විනය තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඉදිරියට යන්න ඕනේ. අපි විතරයි දැනට මේ පොහොට්ටුවට අභියෝගයක් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. නිකන් කෑ ගහන්න වැඩක් නැහැ. අද තියෙන තරුණයෝ ඒකට ප්‍රතිපත්ති අනුව පෙන්නුවා. මේ අය ප්‍රතිපත්ති වශයෙන් බංකොලොත් වැඩේ කරන්න බෑ කියලා. අපිට පිළිතුරු දෙන්නවත් බෑ යාට.
Leader of the SAMAGI-JANA BALAWEGA Sajith Premadasa meanwhile brushes aside allegations of misappropriating vast sums of funds at the Central Cultural Fund, saying that everything was done in fact intended for the betterment of Sambuddha Sasana. Addressing a gathering on the campaign trail, the SJB leader said that he had rendered a great service and is prepared to even risk jail time over it.
SAMAGI-JANA BALAWEGA leader Sajith Premadasa addressed a public gathering of the party in the area of Maharagama yesterday.
දැන් අපිට චෝදනා කරනවා අපේ කාලවකවානුව තුල මුදල්ලම භාවිතා කරයි කියලා. හිතවත් මිත්‍රවරුනි අපි කරපු කියපු සෑම දෙයක්ම අපි කරලා තියෙන්නේ සම්බුද්ධ ශාසනයේ උන්නතිය තකා. මෑත ඉතිහාසයේ 8ම ස්ථානයේ 12ම ස්ථානයේ දීඝවාපියට පන්සල් පද්ධතියට මේ තරම් විශාල මුදල් කන්දරාවක් මෑත ඉතිහාසයේ කිසිම දවසක වෙන් කරේ නැහැ. ජයශ්‍රී මහ බෝධීන් වහන්සේ ආරක්ෂා කරන්නට අපේ නායක ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ ලක්ෂ 420ක උපකරණ කට්ටල ඉල්ලුවා. ආයේ දෙකක් බැලුවේ නෑ. ඒක පෑන් පාරෙන් අනුමත කරා. ඒව දැන් අද වැරදි වැඩ හැටියට හඳුන්වනවා. මම එකක් කියන්න කැමතියි. ඒ වගේ දැවැන්ත සේවාවක් කරලා සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස ඕනම වෙලාවක හිරේ ලගින්නට ලෑස්ති කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ කියන්න කැමතියි.
We will see you shortly. Bear with us. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, leader of the JATIKA-JANA BALAWEGA, Anura Kumara Disanayake, sees the present government's aim to attain a 2/3 majority in parliament as an attempt to undermine democracy. During an audience with the chief prelates of the Malvatta and Askiriya chapters today, Disanayake said that his party's goal during the looming polls is simply to increase its representation in parliament.
Leader of the JATIKA-JANA BALAWEGA, Anura Kumara Disanayake, and its members contesting the polls from the district of Kandy, called on the chief prelate of the Malvatta chapter, Most Venerable Tibbatuwave Sri Sumangala Thera today. They later called on the chief prelate of the Askiriya chapter, Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Jnana Ratanathera.
COVID නිසා ඉතින් ලොකු රැස්වීම් කරන්න බැරි වුණා. අපි වැඩි කර මේ ලෝකයෙන් ගෙට යන එක තමයි අපි ලැබින් කරේ. ඡන්දයක් කරන්න ගිහිල්ලා ලෙඩේ තුනක් අනික තමයි රැස්වීම. ගොඩක් ඒවා තිබුණා.
Leader of the Jatika Janabalawegaya then expressed his views to media.
ආණ්ඩුව මේ තුنين දෙක ඉල්ලන්නේ දැනට ජයග්‍රහණය කරගෙන යන ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී කර්තව්‍යයන් සහ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී විහුවයන් මුළුමනින්ම අඩපණ කිරීම සඳහා දරන ප්‍රයත්නයක්. ඒක එසේ නොවන්නේ නම් ආණ්ඩුව 5 වෙනිදාට පෙර ජනතාවට කීවිය යුතුයි තමන් ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ සංශෝධනය කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන මොනවද කියලා. ව්‍යවස්ථාව සංශෝධනය කරනවා කියලා ඡන්ද ඉල්ලන එකෙන් කරන දේ තමයි ජනතාව හරහා හිස් චෙක් පතකට අස්සනක් ගැනීම තමයි මේ උත්සාහ කරන්නේ.
සමගි ජනබලවේගයේ මේ වෙනකොට ප්‍රධාන මැතිවරණ පොරොන්දු තමයි 20 ලබා දීම.
සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාසලා හිතනවා ජනතාවට සල්ලි දෙන්නම් කිව්වහම තහඩුවක් දෙන්නම් කිව්වහම වැසිකිලි පෝච්චියක් දෙන්නම් කිව්වහම ඡන්ද ලැබෙවි කියලා. ඒ නිසා එම පහළ ප්‍රාථමික දේශපාලනය මේ රටේ ජනතාව දැන් ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කළ යුතුයි. ඒ නිසා එවැනි සුරංගනා කතා සීනි බෝල පොරොන්දු වලින් මේ රට කිසිසේත්ම ගොඩ ගන්න බෑ.
Now, Deputy Solicitor General Dileepa Peeris today challenged the Inspector General of Police to produce former Negombo Prison Superintendent Anuruddha Sampaio in court on Tuesday or appear in court and explain the reasons for the police department's failure to arrest him 10 days since a warrant was issued. This was stated at a media briefing held at the Attorney General's Department, where he also stated that the system which allows a suspect, such as Sampaio, to abscond court hearings but be represented by a 15-member legal team must be changed.
මීගමුව බන්ධනාගාරය තුල දුවී ඇති බවට වාර්තා වී ඇති විෂමාචාර හා වැරදි පිළිබඳව රඳවා සිටින රැඳවියා සමග බන්ධනාගාර නිලධාරීන් හා එක්ව සිදු කරන ලබුණු දෝෂිත ක්‍රියා අයථා මුදල් දේපල උපයා ගැනීම සහ මද්ද්‍රව්‍ය ජාවාරම් පිළිබඳව ලැබුණු පැමිණිල්ලට අනුව විමර්ශනය කිරීම. මේ වරෙන්තු අපි අර කොවිඩ් රෝගියා හොයන්න ඕන වගේ අපි මෙහෙයුමක් දියත් කළ යුතු නොවේද කියන මම අධිකරණ විමසා සිටියා. මේ විදිහට දින 7ක් 87000ක් වෙන පොලිස් හමුදාවක් ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙලා අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්න නොහැකි නම් ඒක සාක්ෂි වන්දන පරිඩය මොකක්ද අපි මේ රටේ? රටේ ජනාධිපතිවරයාට ආරක්ෂක ලේකම්වරයාට බන්ධනාගාර කුමසාරිස් ජෙනරාල්වරයාට සහ ඒ බන්ධනාගාරයේ අධිකාරිවරයාව තමුන්ගේ එළියේ සිටින සහචරයන් උදවාගෙන ඝාතනය කරන බවට උන් ප්‍රසිද්ධිය කියා තිබ්බා. ඉතින් මෙහෙම ධෛර්යයක් ශක්තියක් විශ්වාසයක් කොහොමද මේ බන්ධනාගාර රැඳිවන්ට ලැබුණේ? අර ඔබට මා කියපු නඩු බාණ්ඩේ බන්ධනාගාර තිබුණු ඉලෙක්ට්‍රොනික තරහදිය වගේ දෙයකින් තමයි මේ ශක්තිය ලැබිලා තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට මේ පරිසරය සුද්ධ විය යුතු නැද්ද? මම ඍජුව කියන්න ඕනේ. මේක සහකාර පොලිස් අධිකාරිවරයෙක් අධිකරණයට එනවා. එහෙමද වෙන්න ඕනේ. පොලිසියේ නායකත්වය දෙන්න ඕනේ ජේෂ් නිලධාරී කෙනෙක් අධිකරණයට. ඇයි නියෝජ්‍ය පොලිස්පතිවරයාට අධිකරණයට එන්න බැරි? දැන් අපි පොලිස් දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව කියලා තියෙනවා. අධිකරණයට බාරුණා කියලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. හොයන්න ඕනේ කොහෙද හිටියේ කියලා. මොකද මේවා නරක පූර්වාදේශ සපයන අනිත් අපරාධකරුවන්ට. අධිකරණයේ නියෝග මත සිටින පුද්ගලයන් බන්ධනාගාරය තුල තමුන්ගේ රාජධානියක් හදාගෙන අපරාධ ව්‍යාපාරයක් කරගෙන යනකොට ඒක නවත්තන්න අවශ්‍යයි කියන කාරණය අපිට පුළුවන් මේ අධිකරණයක සියල්ල අරන් දුන්නා මේ පොලිසියට. පොලිසියට තියෙන ක්‍රියාත්මක වීමේ කාර්යභාරය මේ අවස්ථාවේදී. අනිත් එක මේකේ හදිස්සියක් ගැන කියලා තියෙනවා. ඔව් අපිට හදිස්සියක් තියෙනවා. හදිස්සියක් තියෙන අපරාධ නඩු සම්බන්ධ මේ රටේ. ඒක පැහැදිලිව කියන්න ඕනේ. ඔය හැම නඩුවක්ම ඇල් මරනවා. මීගමුව බන්ධනාගාරේ සිදුවන්නේ ඒක තමයි. දැන් සම්පායෝ කියන පුද්ගලයා පෙන්වා සිටින්නේ ඇයි? ඔහු එන්නේ නැහැ උසාවියට. එවනවා ජනාධිපති නීතිඥවරයෙකුට නීතිඥවරු 15ක් වෙන අධිකරණයට. ඔහුට එම ශක්තියක් දුන්නේ කවුද? මේ සිස්ටම් එක දීලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒතර ඒ සිස්ටම් එක නැවැත් යුතු නැද්ද අපි? වහාම තිත තියන්න ඕනේ. ඒක තමයි අපි පොලිස්පතිට ඇවිල්ලා අධිකරණයට කියන්නේ කොහේ මොනවද අරන් තියෙන ක්‍රියාකලාපය. 24 වෙනිදා ඔහු එනවා මේ අලුත් කඩේ අධිකරණ සංකීර්ණයට. ඇවිල්ලා දියුණුම් පෙත්සමක් අස්සම් කරලා යනවා. කොහොමද ඔය කරන්නේ? දැන් අදට දින 10ක් වෙනවා. සම්පායෝ කියන පුද්ගලයා වාෂ්ප වුණාද? කූහු ලබන ගහරුවාදින නඩු වෙනවා නැවත කැඳ වෙනවා මේකම අධිකරණයේදී ඒ වෙනුවට එක්කෝ සම්පාය වල්ලන්න ඕනේ එක්කෝ සම්පාය වල්ලන්න බැරි හේතුව කියන්න ඕනේ.
Now, an interim order has been issued suspending the trial before the Colombo High Court regarding the bribery case against Avangard Chairman Nisanka Senadipati and former Chairman of Ratnalanka Major General Palitha Fernando. The order was delivered by the Appeals Court Judge Bench when the revision application filed by Senadipati and Fernando was taken up this morning. Accordingly, fixing the revision application for support on the 2nd of September, the Appeals Court issued notices to the Bribery Commission to present its submissions with regard to the lawsuit on the scheduled date. Senadipati and Fernando had filed the revision application seeking an interim order staying the proceedings pertaining to the Avangard bribery case before the Colombo High Court. The Bribery Commission had filed the case against the duo for allegedly soliciting and accepting a bribe of 35.5 million rupees to maintain a floating armory at the Galle Fort during the administration of the former government. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.